Okay, let's unpack this. You ever find yourself just, like, doing something totally on autopilot?
Oh, all the time, right.
Like this story I read about Sarah in Creatures of Habit. After soccer practice, she grabs a donut, takes a bite, and then bam, realizes it's Passover.
Oops.
Exactly. It wasn't a conscious choice,
Oh.
just her brain running that same old post-practice script.
And that moment that, wait, what am I doing? It really gets at how much of our day is run by these, well, invisible forces,
Yes.
our habits.
Totally. And what's fascinating is that Sarah's slip-up, that automatic reach, it's not just a funny story. It actually shows a fundamental thing about how our brains work.
Yeah, they're wired for efficiency, right? Building these patterns, these habits to free up mental energy.
Exactly. And that efficiency, that automation, that's the rabbit hole we're diving into today. We're really going to get into the science behind our daily habits.
Sounds good.
And for this deep dive, we've pulled together a pretty wide range of sources. Think practical advice from places like Shift, Healthline, MacroFactor, Health Direct, Mind Health, Buffer.
Right, the how-to stuff.
Yeah, and then they blended that with the deeper neuroscience from research in PMC and chromosomes X, plus insights from habit gurus like James Clear, Flinders University.
And even touching on sleep science, right? Mayo Clinic, Huberman Lab, because that definitely plays a role too.
Absolutely. So when you connect all those threads, you get this really cool spectrum from the practical tips to the deep biology.
Understanding the what and the why.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So our mission for you today is pretty straightforward. By the time we finish up, you'll have a really solid handle on the engine behind all habits, what's called the habit loop.
And knowing that loop is honestly, it's like getting the instruction manual for making changes, whether you want to start a good habit or ditch a bad one.
Yeah, why focus on this loop idea specifically?
Well, because it gives us a framework, right? It
Right.
lets us break down these behaviors that feel so automatic and, well, solid into pieces we can actually work with.
See the gears turning.
Exactly. And once you see the gears, you can start thinking about how to tweak them.
Okay, let's do it. Let's jump right into the habit loop itself. This is like the core concept.
Mm-hmm.
Healthline, Mind Health, they mentioned Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, really brought this to light. So bottom line, what is this habit loop?
So essentially, it's a three-step cycle, a neurological pattern the brain runs through whenever a habit gets triggered. It's like a shortcut.
A shortcut.
Yeah, lets us do routine stuff automatically, saves brain power for, harder things.
Got it. So 3 steps in this shortcut. What's step 1?
Step one is the cue. Think of it like the starting gun. It's the signal, the trigger that tells your brain, okay, time to run that habit program.
A trigger. Okay.
Right.
And what kind of things act as triggers? The sources gave a bunch of examples here.
Oh yeah, loads. Cues can be really varied. A big one is location. Healthline mentions just walking past the break room
Mhm.
can trigger that coffee craving. The place itself is the cue.
Right. That makes sense. The environment.
Mm.
What else?
Mhm. Time is another huge one. Like the clock hitting 5 p.m., as Healthline points out, often triggers the pack up and leave work routine for lots of people.
Yeah, totally. The daily rhythm. What about like internal stuff? How we're feeling?
Definitely. Our emotional state is a major cue. Feeling stressed or anxious. Healthline notes that might trigger nail biting, fidgeting.
Oh yeah, those automatic little self-soothing things.
Exactly. Then there are the people around you. Huberman Lab mentioned this. You see someone pull out their phone.
And suddenly everyone's doing it.
You got it. It's like social habit contagion. And even the last action you took can be a cue. Healthline's classic example, flush the toilet,
Wash your hands.
almost without thinking.
Precisely. And don't forget smell. That coffee aroma from the break room again. Healthline says that can be a really powerful cue for wanting caffeine.
So these cues, they can be super obvious, like the time, or really subtle, like a smell. Seems like just noticing them is the first big step.
Absolutely. Becoming aware of those triggers is key.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the cue fires. What's next? That brings us to part 2, right? The routine.
Your routine or the action. This is the habit itself, the behavior you actually do.
The thing we do automatically after the trigger.
Correct. And like Healthline and Mind Health explain, routines aren't just physical actions. They can be mental, like checking email constantly, or even emotional responses.
Okay, give us some more examples of routines.
Sure. Healthline mentions feeling tired. Routine might be grabbing a sugary snack. Bored.
Scrolling social media, definitely.
Right. Thinking hard. Maybe tapping a pen. Huberman Lab referenced that Lally study, the routine of taking a walk after dinner.
Oh yeah, trying to build that habit.
And James Clear often uses just, brewing morning coffee as a classic example of a set routine.
Okay, so cue triggers the routine, the behavior. What's the final piece that Locks it all in.
The third part is the reward. This is the payoff, the benefit your brain gets from doing the routine.
Ah, the good part.
Well, it feels good to the brain, yeah. And that reward is what really strengthens the whole loop. It tells your brain, hey, that cue and that routine, they led to something good. Let's remember that.
So the reward makes the brain crave doing it again next time the cue appears.
Exactly that. Healthline talks about how rewards create craving. The brain links the cue, the routine, and that positive feeling together. It's a really strong feedback mechanism.
And these rewards, they're not always huge things, are they?
Not at all. Often they're quite subtle. Healthline's examples. That clean feeling after brushing teeth, that's the reward. Feeling connected after texting someone you're running late. That reassurance is the reward.
Yeah.
Even habits we don't like have rewards. Watching YouTube when you should be working. The reward is temporary distraction from boredom or the task. Healthline even points out texting an ex. The reward might be complex, like temporary validation or, something else.
Wow. So even the habits we know aren't good for us are giving some kind of immediate payoff.
That's the tricky part. And neurologically speaking, Huberman Lab and Chromosome C6 mentioned dopamine. That pleasure chemical plays a huge role here. That dopamine hit reinforces the pathway.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Can we walk through an example loop?
Sure, Healthline uses online shopping, the cue, maybe boredom settling in during the evening,
Okay, feeling bored.
the routine, mindlessly opening that favorite shopping app and just scrolling,
Yep, done that.
and the reward. That little hit of excitement, seeing new stuff, maybe anticipating a purchase, or just, frankly, escaping the boredom for a bit.
Boredom, cue, scrolling, routine, distraction, reward. Makes sense.
Or the texting an example, also from Healthline. Cues could be loneliness, stress, maybe late-night drinks.
Uh-huh.
Routine is sending the text. Rewards, even if they cause problems later, might be a quick feeling of connection, maybe validation, maybe hope for something more.
Even if long-term it's not great, the immediate reward wins.
Often, yes. The immediate reward is very powerful. Now, looking at the brain science, PMC research shows that as a behavior gets more habitual, the sensoromotor loop in the brain gets better and better at running that sequence. Needs less conscious thought.
So the more you do it, the deeper the groove gets worn in your brain.
Perfectly put. Which leads nicely into a practical strategy. Habit stacking. James Clear is big on this, and Chromosomes Iod and Mind Health mention it too.
Habit stacking. What's that?
It's pretty clever. You basically link a new habit you want to build onto an existing habit you already do without thinking. Clear's formula is simple. After current habit, I will new habit.
Okay, like how? Give me an example.
James Clear suggests things like, after I pour my morning coffee current habit, I will meditate for 1 minute new habit.
Ah, so the coffee is the cue for meditating.
Exactly. Or Mind Health's example. After I brush my teeth at night current habit, I will lay out my workout clothes for the morning new habit.
I see. So you're kind of hijacking the momentum of the old habit to launch the new one.
That's a great way to put it. Chromosome C points out you're leveraging an existing neural pathway, making it easier for the new behavior to latch on.
That sounds really useful.
Okay.
So when you are trying to build a new habit, like that walking after dinner thing, is there a magic number? Like do it 21 days and you're set?
The magic number question. Well, the sources suggest. Not really. It's way more variable than people think. Huberman Lab discussed that Lally study.
Right, the walking one.
Yeah. They found it took people anywhere from 18 days to, get this, 254 days to make walking after dinner feel automatic.
Whoa, 18 to 254. That's a massive difference. Why so big?
Well, the study suggests it depends on, how complex the habit is, the person's motivation, how consistently they actually do it, lots of factors.
Okay.
But what Huberman Lab really stressed is that it's less about a specific number of days and more about frequency, doing it consistently, say 85% of the time, and that feeling of it becoming, well, less effortful, less conscious thought needed.
So consistency and that feeling of automaticity are better signs than just counting days.
Exactly. And Huberman Lab also brought up this idea of limbic friction.
Limbic friction. Sounds uncomfortable.
It kind of is. Think of it as the mental resistance, the effort it takes to just start doing something. High limbic friction means it feels really hard to get going.
So if you're tired and unmotivated, the limbic friction for going to the gym would be super high.
Precisely. Which is why your mindset and making those first steps easy is so important. But here's a cool twist. Huberman Lab mentioned linchpin habits.
An linchpin, like holding things together.
Sort of. These are habits you actually enjoy, like maybe a type of exercise you genuinely like doing. Engaging in that linchpin habit can actually lower the limbic friction for other related positive habits.
No way. So enjoying my morning run might make it feel easier to, say, choose a healthy lunch later.
That's the idea. It creates this positive spillover effect, reducing that initial barrier for other good choices.
That's fascinating. One good habit making others easier.
It is. And one last piece from Huberman Lab, procedural memory. This is our brain system for remembering how to do things, sequences of actions.
Like riding a bike.
Exactly. And they suggest that mentally rehearsing the steps of a new habit, just visualizing yourself doing it, can help encode it into that procedural memory. Makes it more likely to stick when you actually go to do it.
Like a mental practice run.
Precisely.
Okay, wow. So we've really unpacked this habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. We've looked at stacking habits, the variability in how long it takes, this idea of limbic friction, linchpin habits, even mental rehearsal. It's all about understanding the mechanics behind what we do automatically.
And armed with that understanding, you, the listener, now have this lens, this framework to look at your own habits. The next step is really starting to identify those specific cues, routines, and rewards playing out in your life.
Enjoying the timeless insights on the Evergreen Ear? Subscribe now so you never miss out on future episodes packed with valuable Evergreen content designed for your listening pleasure. Hit that like button if you found this helpful, and tap the bell too to stay updated on all our Evergreen audio journeys.